Good day, everyone. This is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to DDO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in DDO and here at DDO Players. And please welcome my co-host from Ravenloft, Draculetta.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. And also, please welcome our special guest for tonight, Bonnie Bew.
Hello! You let me back in the doors.
Yeah.
Even though I
We
talk
didn't
so
lock
much.
them well enough, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. We'd let anybody in.
All right, and we are going to begin with our big story for today. That I heard that they're making a few tweaks on the characters.
A few tweaks, Pineleaf. Oh, Pineleaf, a few
This
tweaks.
is the topic of the whole. It's not just today's topic. It's the past week's topic. The topic of lifetime.
QREM, it's the end of the world as we know it.
The
And
end of the world?
That pretty much covers it. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that there has been much participation in any single thread on the forums since the champions were introduced. And there was a lot of tizzy about champions right after they were introduced. And I think this is the only thing that has surpassed that in recent months.
What, you mean people were complaining when they added champions?
There was a lot of talk about champions.
And then they complained when they nerfed champions to make them not as hard as they
there's so much. There's no way, and I think that's a general rule of thumb with forums, with any kind of player base of any game. There's always going to be unhappy people, and there's always going to be happy people, and there's always going to be people who just don't post because they don't care. So,
because they get scared of the forums.
Well, they might be scared of the forums, or might not. They just might not have the passion. You know, you're seeing a lot of passion in the forums right now about the proposed balance change, and I guess that's a good thing. You know, it's good that people are this passionate about a game that's almost 10 years old.
I will give you that. That is a very good thing to see. I think
if it's not.
Some people tend to go about it the wrong way on the forums, but
if there's a lot of just being drama llamas, then that's maybe not as good. But I think it's good to see a lot of people have opinion about these topics, about the post changes. I just don't like seeing the people who are like, well, I'm going to unsub now kind of stuff, because that's a little overly dramatic. Because this is an MMO, and MMOs they change frequently.
So,
not like a off-the-shelf game.
Right, exactly. So what we're referring to here is Summerlin did put a post up last week entitled The Balance Change Post. And he started off the post by saying, "Greetings. We have seen a lot of community feedback, both public and private, about our ongoing plans for balance. These are some changes we are considering to increase game balance. As with any post that outlines power reductions, aka nerfs, I'm sure there will be a lot of players looking for explanations and our thoughts and results on balance that led to these changes. I will be following up this post with more details to talk about why some of these changes are being implemented." And then Summerlin goes on to list out the proposed changes. I think the biggest one that I've seen a lot of people questioning and talking about is for the Paladin, and that is the Holy Sword.
Holy Sword!
Holy Sword.
Now, I think it's interesting that the Holy Sword post-Holy Sword changes have now been whittled down, so that it's not as big of a change is going in as was first proposed.
Did we get an opinion from Lessa about the changes in Holy Swords?
No, she kept ducking me. I tried to.
I can't even ask her, because I just think, because Lessa likes playing Paladin.
Oh yeah,
and she loves her sword and board Paladin.
I tried to get her on the show, but she had stuff going on, so she couldn't come on.
And basically, they're the only ones at this point that are getting kind of screwed by the Holy Sword change now. Originally, there's one bonus to Holy Sword that they're adding, and that is that it would stay on whatever weapon you had in your main hand. So if you flipped weapons, you switched out things for whatever reason, you wouldn't have to recast it on your new weapon. So that's a plus. That's good for people all over the place, because having to recast things is boring, and it takes time away from killing things, which is what you really want to do with that sword, or whatever weapon it is in your main hand. But the nerfy part of it was going to be missiles, your offhand weapon if you were a 2-weapon fighter, and your shield if you were a sword and board would not be affected by Holy Sword any longer. And Holy Sword basically just really amps your damage that you do with whatever weapons you're holding. They have since been negotiated down or convinced that that this nerf should not affect missile damage and it shouldn't affect the offhand weapon. So Holy Sword is still going to affect your offhand weapon and it's still going to affect your missile damage. But the poor shields, the sword and boards, the lesses of this world are still going to lose out on having a buff on their shield.
Hold on. So a holy sword puts a buff on your shield?
Yeah, it would amplify the damage that you do, and the crit range. I think I can't remember off the top of my head. Off of whatever weapons you were holding at the time you cast it yourself. So if you were a two-handed fighter, it addressed your two-handed weapon. If you were a two-weapon fighting person, it would affect both of your weapons. And if you were playing with like a sword and shield, it would affect both your sword and your shield. So you had like people bash with their shields and stuff, and it would increase the damage done there. And for some reason, they still have this idea that Vanguards do so much damage somehow, which when I played a Vanguard as a Paladin, I did not find to be the case. So I'm hoping that there's time enough still to nudge them into not doing that one to the shield and just let them still be affected and just drop this Holy Sword nerf, just add in the cool thing where you switch out weapons and it passes on whatever's in your main hand, because they've nerfed Holy Sword several times already, and I think
and that always seems to bring up a big contention among a lot of players is anytime they mess with Holy Sword, people are just like, leave my Holy Sword alone and we'll be fine.
Leave my Holy Sword alone. Because it's the magical thing. You put in, they say like 14-6 builds, but I always do 15-5 if I'm doing multi-classing. But if you're doing like a full 20 or putting that many levels of Paladin into your build, it's cause you want that Holy Sword kind of buff to your damage. It's a great buff, and I don't know. It's one of the things that does make Paladins pretty extra effective for a melee class. So I would rather not be changed. It would save me from like having to think about changing Zoisha, because what is she now? She's like a 15 Paladin, a 5 Ranger Tempest build using 2-weapon fighting. So she was due to be super nerfed, and now she's going to be nerfed a little bit less. But yeah, that's a tricky change, and that's the only one I think that they have backed off on any aspect of it so far.
The other big one that is drawing lots of ire from the community on the forums is 2-weapon fighting is no longer going to grant melee power. Improved 2-weapon fighting is no longer going to grant melee power as well, and the same for greater 2-weapon fighting.
As far as I'm concerned, that plus melee power does not make or break you. I think it comes out to being maybe a 4% reduction in your overall damage. And there's enough ways to get melee power from like the epic destinies and things like that I don't think of that as a big deal. I mean, if you're really trying to min-max, that six melee power matters. But that one doesn't bother me as much as change in crew critical. I think that one has a lot more impact on what 2-weapon fighting is going to be doing.
And the improved critical, these feats now add a bonus to critical threat range purely based on weapon type. It's going to add a +3 to critical threat range for the falchion, the rapier, and the scimitar, +2 to the bastard sword, dagger, great crossbow, great sword, heavy crossbow, khopesh, light crossbow, longsword, etc. And adds a +1 to all other weapons.
Mm-hmm. Now this is one of those things that I think is actually a bug fix, but it's been in the game so long and they've taken so much time to get around to changing it that people feel like it works now how they want it to work. And right now, what it does is
they've taken advantage of it too long.
Yeah, right now you see some multiplicative effects of having your improved critical feat for that damage type, and this is making it be an additive.
Multiplicative abilities are always trouble.
And Patrick from DDO Cast is in the chat, and he says 6 melee power is comparatively a much smaller change, and they also said that they made the change because the animation is being sped up slightly.
Yeah, like the animation, the quicker speed of the animation is supposedly going to balance out taking away the 6 melee power.
And
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I
But-
did read today that there was a player on Lamania that did like some extensive testing, and they had like some hard numbers for them, and I guess it was amazing what this player actually did. And they looked at some of the animation, and I think they're rechanging
And I think
it.
what most people discuss is play style, the realistic play style of game versus maybe how they're testing and gathering their information might be different styles, because I think the observed damage with two weapon fighting that people are seeing in game as players isn't necessarily the same as what they are collecting in their test data. And I think the Lamania test and the information that people gave as feedback when Lamania was open kind of got us back that offhand Holy Sword effect as a little buff to it. You know, it doesn't necessarily help the Rangers or the Rogues, but
Speaking of Rangers, the double shot values over 100% now have a chance of producing a third attack. The chance is equal to the amount the value exceeds 100. A double shot value of 130, for example, would always produce one extra shot and have a 30% chance to produce a third shot. Double strike will still cap at 100 for technical reasons, Severland says. Repeating crossbows and double shot. They fixed a bug where double shot was not being reduced for repeating crossbow. Double shot chance is divided by 3 for repeating crossbows.
So here again, I think it's another, they're making it work as intended, and it's just been different for so long that people are like freaking out about it. It is going to reduce the damage that people are doing with their repeaters, and I think a lot of people have repeaters out there instead of just like crossbows or great crossbows or longbows or whatever. You will see more repeaters out there at this time, and they're definitely getting nerfed. But I think this is one of those things that is a bug fix rather than we're nerfing you.
They're also looking at many shots, and Severland says this ability is being redesigned. For the next 20 seconds, you add your base attack bonus to your double shot and ranged power. This ability puts 10,000 stars on a 30-second cooldown. Cooldown 2 minutes. This ability no longer gives a double shot penalty when activated. And I know a lot of people were complaining about the whole 10,000 stars change to that, which I don't have a monk, so I don't know anything about 10,000 stars, so I was hoping you could say something about that.
Oh, I mean, I've definitely done those kind of burst builds, like Munchers, where you had 10,000 stars and you had many shot and you were in Fury of the Wild and you would use an adrenaline boost right before you hit like your mini shot buttons, and then you hit your 10k star buttons and went pew 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 and saw big numbers, and that was basically the time you were doing damage, and the rest of the time, you know, you were just kind of waiting for the abilities to become available again. And I've done pro builds, but they aren't my favorite kind of thing, so I don't have a lot of in-depth like experience playing them. I've just maybe played them for like 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. I mean, I definitely don't like that they're necessarily getting changed. I'm not excited about that. I would have preferred they'd be left alone. But you know, I don't think it's gonna murder anybody. I don't think anyone's gonna die because of those changes.
Well, I would hope not.
Yeah, no. I don't think anybody's going to die. I think, you know, this becomes one of those opportunities. There's always going to be change in the game. And about every 2 years, there's something that is significant enough that changes the game that makes people kind of shuffle around, and they're kind of starting off with a blank slate, figuring out what's the best kind of build, you know, what's the magic formula for doing what they want to do in DDO. And this is going to be one of those times.
When you say magic formula for doing what you want to do, I presume you mean being so overpowered that...
Yes. Yeah, the magic formula for being overpowered. The magic formula to play, like, if you really want to play a ranged character, you know, what's the best approach to keep yourself alive? And what's the best approach, like, if you want to be a rogue, what do you have to do to try to stay alive and still be able to, like, disarm traps or create traps and just, you know, play the game that you want to, while not getting killed all the time in the dungeon. So I think the first time I started playing in 2009, so I'm sure that it happened before 2009. But when Minnesota Underdark happened, that was one great shift because the level cap went up from 20 to 25. and it introduced PRR and melee. No, it did introduce melee power. No, it didn't introduce melee power. It just introduced the concept of physical resistance rating, and so it made all that we knew before about damage reduction and armor class kind of, floppy. And we were like, what? All these things are hitting me and they're hurting me and I'm sad, and you had to start thinking about PRR. And then I think the next one after that was when they overhauled the enhancement trees and went to what I was calling before the drop down tree of poop to your lovely, kind of tablet for each enhancement tree. And that was much more easy to read and examine and choose what you wanted to do. And I think this is just like the next iteration of the big sweeping changes that happen every 2 years. Now there are things I don't necessarily like, but I do think it's something to be expected.
The other big, I think, major part of this is going to be armor changes. The amount of physical resist rating that armor provides are going to be changed. Heavy armor will now increase physical resist rating by the attack bonus and no longer adds magical resist rating. Medium armor will now increase the physical resist rating by attack bonus and no longer adds MRR. The light armor, the same thing, no longer is going to add the MRR. And Severlin did say they fixed a bug where players were getting PRR for armor in which they were not proficient. So I know that's another thing people are really kind of like freaking out about big time.
And this one is one of the ones, along with some of the, I guess the things that were like under the Barbarian tree, on Barbarian Ravager tree, and the stuff with Holy Sword, those are things that maybe they're kind of tweaking back to adjust for the passes that those classes got earlier. But this one, it just seems weird, because MRR was introduced barely more than a year ago. And at the time it was introduced as this thing that we really needed to kind of combat the direction the game was going. So I can understand the freak out that people are having about losing a large portion of their MRR. There are multiple sources of MRR. You can get it from gear, and you can get it from different enhancement trees and stuff like that. You can get it from augments. So it's not like every character is totally being slapped down to zero, but it does kind of make you wonder what has changed. Where part of this being introduced was making heavy armor more of a thing, and taking it away makes heavy armor a little bit less of a thing. So my only theory about why they are taking away MRR is part of it is shown in the additional fighter feats that they're planning to add, having to do with heavy armor training. And my only theory is they want to do stuff like that they're backpedaling because that by adding more of the PRR and MRR through class feat, they were giving too much of it for the state of the game, and they hadn't left themselves any room when they did passes on the class like Sorcerer and Wizard to include MRR kind of bonuses for those classes. So I think that's what they have in mind. I think that when we see Epic Green Steel, that's going to have some buffs for MRR in it maybe. I think when the casting classes get a pass, they're all going to get access to more PR, MRR through some part of it.
What exactly is MRR?
MRR is magic resistance rating. So it basically absorbs part of the magical damage that you would have taken. If you don't have any MRR, you take all of the magical damage when you're hit, and if you have some MRR, it mitigates the magical damage.
So it's a magical mitigation then.
Yeah. So say you get disintegrated.
You get disintegrated.
Maybe you get disintegrated. No, that's a
You're
bad
gonna have a
example.
bad day. Disintegrated. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. Say somebody throws a meteor swarm at you or something, and it reduces the amount of fire and force damage that you take, and it kind of scales. And I think it gets up to a certain point that an extra 2 points here, extra 2 points there isn't necessarily going to make or break you. But it's for a tank kind of character, somebody who's honestly trying to be a tank still, they really need to have a high amount of it. So I feel kind of sorry for paladins. And paladins do have access through their sacred defender tree. They get some MRR and PRR there, but I kind of wish that they would have access to these feats that the fighters are going to get as well, because then it makes fighters a little bit more tasty in some ways if you want to try to do a tank.
Patrick from DDO Cast says, point of note, if you have a heavy or tower shield, your MRR gets doubled if the magical damage is subject to a reflex save.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And that's another thing I didn't say is, like, shields are still going to be a source for PRR and MRR. And so that part's not going away. So it's going to be a reduction in both of these things for everybody across the board. And so it might increase the challenging, especially if you're doing things on Elite, or Epic Elite. I think you're going to feel the burn a lot more than if you're doing things on normal or hard.
Which, let's be honest, if I think if you're playing on Elite or you're playing on Epic Elite, it should be harder for you, and you should feel that, burn, as you say, more than,
it should bring back the challenge.
Right.
I'm kind of looking forward to it, and because it seems that it's going to remind me more of like old school playing, like when I first started playing. We didn't have as many toys back then. We threw rocks and potatoes at monsters. So
are you one of the people posting on the forums how the game is too easy?
I think in some ways, in other ways, I still challenge. So I certainly find it a lot easier to do Epic Elite with a party than I do doing solo. Heroic, I don't usually have that much of a problem, except the most recent quests that have been added. I think Draculetta knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I feel like the most recent 2 sets of adventure packs that were added seem a lot more difficult at Heroic at that level than other things of equivalent level. So I'm really wondering how I'm going to do on those once these changes go through.
So,
anything else to add on this subject? Or?
Well, no, just basically, we kind of, glossed over this, and Bonnie kind of added her. If you want a good discussion on this, I listened to it today. The latest DDO Cast episode is up now, and towards the end of the show, after the debate section, they talk about this in depth, and Patrick and all I can think of is Confessions of a Geek Mom, but I can't remember who else was on that show. Go over these changes, and they give their feelings on them, and it is an amazing show, and they did a good job talking about this. Much better than what we just did, I might add. So.
Yeah, I'm just glossing over stuff.
Right.
I mean, I think for new players, the bottom line is you're going to lose your defense, you're going to lose some defense, and you're going to lose some offense. And so when patch 1 comes out, update 28 patch 1 comes out, that's what's going to happen. Assuming they introduce everything. I think this is my closing thing, my closing detail that bothers me is that I thought when I first started this thread, this was stuff that was going to be coming along in update 29, and that there would be like a month or so, 2 months before, it actually went into production. But then I find out that it's going to be included in patch 1 with like the new Halloween event.
You mean it wasn't some theoretical thing that might happen at some point in the future?
Oh, it's going to happen some points in the future.
So we started discussing it like a week, 2 weeks before they plan to put stuff in, and to me that seems really rushed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a sweeping change to add to the game in a week.
I also really like the thing that several people suggested or asked for is, could you just maybe make 1 or 2 of these changes and see that they're cool before, and then add other changes at a different time? Because the biggest concern here with all these changes is I accept that there is change, but I'm concerned with the number of changes, how much stuff might potentially be kind of broken or maybe get unexpected results with all of the changes. I'm a little bit scared that in that aspect. So I would like to see I would like to see it broken up more and into small patches over time, and not all go in like next week or 2 weeks from now.
Which, and it sounds like they're shooting for sometimes next week for all this to go live.
Yeah. So that feels like we found out about it too late in the process to give have enough discussion and feedback and back and forth to allow for real development changes. It makes me a little bit nervous. That's the thing. That's the only thing I'm panicked about is that it all might be coming in a week.
All right. Now, speaking of panics, I have heard that we are about to experience Gnomageddon.
God, the gnomes are coming.
Gnomageddon!
So many gnomes everywhere.
I'm
a monster!
Yes, they have talked about it. They have dropped little hints about it. They have said, oh, we're discussing it, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's official. Gnomes are coming.
Gnomes are coming.
During the
Update
weekly Wednesday live stream, the latest one that they just had, which we will have a link to it in the show notes. It was basically about the balance changes. The first maybe 15, 20 minutes of the live stream, Severlin was on with Cordovan, and he was taking questions and kind of explaining, where they were at, what they were thinking with these. And the gnome question came up in the chat again, as it always does. Usually every live stream, somebody asks about gnomes.
and it's never me.
Yeah, it is never you. That's true.
Would it?
And Severlin said, yes, gnomes are coming. They are pretty far into them, it sounds like. When the Players' Council was there, or some of the members of the Players' Council was there, I should say, last week, when they were in-house, they got a look at them. They got a look at the art. I guess they are really happy with the way the art style is looking right now for them.
If they could only talk to us about what they saw, then we would already know whether or not it's just dwarves with big noses or whether it's something completely different.
So, and they are doing the regular gnome and the deep woods gnome.
Yes. Oh, did you ever see the Phineas Fingers cartoon about gnomes?
No.
Oh, yes. They were looking for some secret conspiracy, and they eventually learned that halflings, dwarves, and gnomes were all the same race. And that they were having this conspiracy so they could get 3 times the amount of publicity. It was from a Dragon magazine. Well, oh, boy, that must be 30 years ago?
Oh, wow.
No wonder I missed it.
And DDO Central is correcting something that I said, and I apologize for it. It is deep gnome and not deep wood gnome. But I don't know why I said deep gnome. I don't know where that came
But
from.
nobody can actually say that.
Yeah, I just say it's these.
Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can.
I just refer to
Somebody
them as
can.
Swiffer gnome.
One person.
Swiffer.
These Swiffer gnome, they carry around a little broom.
Clean up best.
That's right. So yeah, so everybody that was excited about gnomes, you can be more excited. They are coming in update 30.
I'm super excited. And why do we call it Gnomageddon? Because we thought that it was sign of the apocalypse before we actually got gnomes. Like hell would freeze over before we actually got. And now that we're getting gnomes, like, oh my God, is the end times?
Gnomes everywhere. My worst fear. My worst fear is I'm going to log in on day one, and the marketplace is just going to be full of gnomes running around everywhere.
It's all going to be me. All those characters are going to be me. I have all my little gnomes.
My drow's going to be standing there like, what just happened?
Who's
Where
going to log up
little
first to
critters
create
coming
a Jan Jansen kind of character? Who's going to do it? Now, with a new player race, one of the most important questions is, what are their dances going to be? Because each player race has their own has 2 dances. And it can be a big deal. It can be a very big deal.
What would a gnome like?
So I was wondering now I posted on Twitter like what I thought would be pretty cool, and I said the pony and twerking are my dances of choice. But I've got people suggesting the mashed potato and the jerk. That's Race Royal. Skunk City suggested mashed potato and the Dougie. There are a lot of votes for the Dougie. A lot of people like the Dougie.
Yeah, the Dougie would be awesome. I vote for the Dougie.
Other people are saying they like the moonwalk instead of twerking, or the worm, the Dougie and electric slide, or moonwalk and Macarena. I'm excited. That's the first things I'm going to check after I make my gnome.
Okay. I must admit, I didn't realize that the various races had dances.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes different between male and female, too. So the girls and boys don't have the same dances.
Okay. I haven't explored the emotes in this game as much as I've done them in Lotro.
I've only recently explored emotes because I've tried to use them a lot in music videos.
DDO Central says moonwalk.
Moonwalk. Another vote for Moonwalk. I think, and I don't know what it, like, just a jig, some kind of happy jig, be very gnomey. Because I expect them to play like the accordion or
What are the halfling
a
dances?
harmonica.
The mental
The
image I'm
halfling
getting.
dances. Oh my gosh, they do have a kind of like jiggy jig with like fists up in the air kind of thing, and I can't remember what the other one is. It's a side to side kind of deal. I don't know. Someone better than me. I know it's in the Ladies Who Party video. I've got a halfling dancing in there.
DDO Central saying they break dance.
They break dance?
Yes.
That might be a boy thing.
Yeah, he said the male halfling break dances.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. The girls don't break dance. But they do have one dance cooler than the others. And I think the best class, the best dances are the female half-elves. Because they get an on-point kind of ballerina twirl, and then they also get the cheer. They get to, like, do their cheer steps, like they're rooting for their team. It's totally awesome.
Okay.
So, yay, gnomes! And yay,
Alright.
gnomes dancing!
I don't get the gnome thing, people. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
I really like them. I think I like them good flavor, etc. I mean, I don't necessarily see how they're going to fit in as, you know, where's their gaping hole needed for this race particularly fills in terms of race class combinations. But I just love gnomes. I think they're kind of silly and quirky, and I just want to like hug them till they pop. And that's why I like gnomes. I think my feelings are colored a lot by Baldur's Gate 2 and Baldur's Gate 1 and how crazy the gnomes were, the gnome characters in those two games were.
Well, I remember from a pen and paper game where one of the main characters we had there was a gnome paladin. So that's a fun.
The other thing is, I wonder what racial deity we're going to have for gnomes. Are they going to have to double up with somebody? Because does this mean they're going to add Gond to like maybe the available races to gods to worship?
Well, you would almost have to.
I would think you'd have to have like just have Gond there for like the gnome clerics and favored souls, paladins. But that's more like that isn't a Eberron thing though. It's a Forgotten Realms kind of thing. So I can't remember in the Pantheon and Eberron what is most suitable for gnomes. I'd have to go back and look at the source book.
And this is a point that I didn't even think about. DDO Central saying the gnome is the last core D&D race that is missing from DDO.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I never, I guess, thought about that.
Yeah, that's one of the other reasons why I want them. But the thing is gnomes they got kicked to the curb with 4th edition, in favor of tieflings as a core race. And I think, I think they might be back in 5th edition now, but tieflings are still there. But you've seen, there's talk of tieflings as well. Like a lot of people want to see tieflings because they think,
we need tieflings.
Kind of fill a niche for, like as something that potentially has maybe a extra wisdom in the base stats or something that I think that people are looking for.
All I have to say about tieflings is shut up and take my money.
So I'm not.
All I gotta say.
So what's your solution to the horns issue?
Just don't have horns.
Well, I mean, like have them look like the other chicks in the game.
Right,
Their horns aren't
exactly.
that big.
Exactly.
You don't have to go like all Neverwinter horns.
Yeah, I mean, and
You don't have to have tail.
and the whole tail thing too. Just don't have them have tails because
We don't have a tail on our existing tiefling.
Yeah, actually, concerning the horns issue, because I don't know how does that did, but I noticed that my characters never show their headgear, so why can't just tieflings by default never show headgear?
Yeah, and I have like stuff that poke through my hats already. Anyhow, when I'm a blade forged, all those spiky head shapes they stick through all my hats if I'm showing the hat. So that's why I turn any kind of helmet off because all of my spikes are showing anyhow. So I feel horns would be the same way. It's like why just ignore it, make them like they are already in game as an opponent. And, give people tieflings. Now, I'm a little bit biased against tieflings because I blame them for kicking my beloved gnomes out of the 4th edition core races,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but what's 4th edition?
I'm like, gnomes forever.
Bonnie, what is this 4th edition you keep talking about?
It's the edition that shall not be named.
That's right. There you go. See, now you're getting it.
All right, let's head into the night revels. And what's this about old Marbar rewards?
Maybar, which I just noticed
Maybar.
I spelled wrong in the show notes. That's why you said
Oh.
Marbar. That's my fault.
Yeah.
um,
Marbar. That sounds like a delicious candy bar.
yes, it does, actually. A dark Marbar. In the forums, there was a thread that was very well put together, and it was basically a petition that the player that created it wanted everybody to do a / if they thought they should add some of the old Maybar loot into the Night Rebels event. And about halfway down the thread, Cordovan chimed in and he said they have made the decision that they will be adding most of the old loot to the Night Rebels, and it's going to take the new Night Rebels ingredients to acquire the loot. He did stress the fact that they are not going to add any of the tomes, though. And then he said, thank you for your feedback.
No +5 tomes.
That's the first time I ever heard of a response to a petition thread Turbine.
We love that stuff.
And I will say that this thread was very well put together and it was laid out nicely and nobody got very trolly in it ever. It was a great thread and I think that's kind of what helped.
That helps a great deal because
the-
usually they are
Level of
real.
sincerity.
Right. And it was a very sincere thread and they just said, hey, this is what I think needs to happen and this is why it should happen. So if anybody agrees, do a /. And it was just great. So it's a positive thing that I think this goes to show that they do actually listen to what we say if it's projected in the proper tone and way.
Right.
They were available with the Mimic event, but it was so difficult to get some things, or inefficient to get some of the Maybar rewards, that I love that there's another opportunity to get some of my favorite things. But didn't they say something about the rewards from the Night Rebels are only going to be lasting for a certain amount of time, and then they are going to be obsolete for I don't know.
The candies and stuff that you can get, the cosmetic items and stuff like that is going to be
stays.
Yes.
I wonder if the Maybar rewards are going to persist, because there's some things in there that I like to get a lot of, like the oil of luminescence, which adds, I think it's 1d4 or 1d6 light damage to your weapon, which I love to use when I am reincarnating and leveling up again. And they also have death ward potions in there, as well as pumpkin head stuff and skeleton head stuff you can throw at your friends just to ruin their day. And it's nice to hold on to that stuff until it's the middle of June, and then suddenly throw a skeleton head at somebody and just hear them cuss you out. That's what makes life worth living. So I hope that the Maybar rewards are going to persist, because there's some things I'd like to use throughout the year and then stock up again the next time the event comes around.
I suspect then that they don't have an option in DDO to turn off forced emotes.
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think there's any immunity to Pumpkinhead or skeleton heads.
All right. I was just checking because I know that all of my characters in Lotro have such an immunity turned on.
I don't think we have into that. I think you're out of luck. Somebody bangs you, the thing. But I think it only lasts a few minutes. An hour max.
An hour max. Right. Let's head into the Chronicle. Chronicle 163. And is there anything nearly as interesting in here as what we've been talking about?
Well, there is a player, and I'm going to totally butcher this name, and I apologize. I'm going to say Alkuyu Sato? I don't know. Anyway, there's this cool player that is working on a DPS calculator called the DPS Oracle. So check that link out to see what he's doing.
They're going to do so much more work now.
Oh, it's a huge undertaking, but
man.
And I think all this work that they've done is going to be not valid, and they're going to have to redo it all. But
read formulas.
Collect that, go over and check that out and see what he's starting to undertake, because it's a pretty amazing little deal he's trying to do.
All right. Anything else interesting in there?
Yeah, Ginger Spice is getting ready to debut a new video series featuring everybody's favorite Warlock. So click over and take a look at the teaser video he put together for the new video series. And his videos are always amazing, so I'm sure he will do an awesome job. And Musk is running Let Sleeping Dust Lie. Click over to check that video out. And Musk actually writes for our site from time to time. So it's good to see him starting to do some videos. And I noticed today he was actually doing some Twitch streaming as well. So that is
cool.
Good to see. In the Fansite News section, DDO Cast had their episode 401 with guest Propane and Community Manager Cordovan, where they were talking about the different wilderness areas. So click over and give that episode a listen. That was another great episode as well. We got a shout out for our last episode with Saba Jade. The DDO Cocktail Hour had a new episode out. Very awkward episode, but it was their episode.
Awkward.
Yeah, just listen to it and you'll see why. And Jeff over at DDO Gamer delves into the best part about DDO. So check out Jeff's latest blog.
Obviously, that blog was about Gnomes.
Well, obviously, gnomes are.
So that's now the best part. That's now the best part about DDO.
According to Bonnie, yes. And that's it for our Chronicle this week.
That is it for a Chronicle update. And what is that picture that we have in the screenshot?
For at the top of the Chronicle are
At
these
the bottom.
the screenshot of the week? I don't know. Let me open the Chronicle back up.
It's pretty good. It is from Shanticor.
Oh,
The Halls of Shanticor quest.
Oh yeah, it's the
It's the infights.
yeah, it's the Guardian of Shanticor.
okay. I guess I
Yeah.
never knew that he looked like that. Considering how much I've done that quest recently.
You know, usually when you're doing that quest, you're like, looking at him from a different angle.
Ah,
Is this person a ranged character? Because normally I'm up closer and I don't get to see all this cool
yeah.
stuff.
It looks like he is based on the way his.
Yeah, the way it looks like he's got a crossbow. I'm gonna guess the way
Right.
his stance looks.
So
Yeah, I guess I'm used to seeing those crazy earth elementals that accompany him.
hugging you,
Yeah, hugging me. Yes.
unsolicited hugs.
Yeah. Ah, yes, earth elementals.
And
Yeah,
Orion from the chat, I'm sorry, I just saw this, ask, going back, he wonders if there's going to be a candy dish in the store to hold all of the...
New Night Rebels candy, like we have the
Oh.
cookie jar.
I wonder. Depends on how long they last. Like if like
Till
we
the
get
end
to
of the
hold
year,
them
they said.
all year.
Yep.
Like if the candy's only till the end of the year, then I can put them in the shared bag or something, and I wouldn't buy a candy dish. But if they were like cookies, I would probably succumb to purchasing a container for them.
Oh, and how much do containers for cookies cost?
A lot.
Yeah, so therefore,
It's one of those things I think you want to buy on sale if you can.
Yeah,
And
I
there's two
keep
different sizes.
I keep
I've
looking
got
at them and I'm
the
like,
one.
no, wait till they're on sale. And then when they go on
Yeah.
sale, I don't think about
Or-
it and I miss it. So
throw them in the bag when you're doing one of those determine your discount kind of things. Because I think it hurts a little bit. Like, it's something like when you're buying your ingredients bag, you buy a big one and you spend like 795 points, but you're going to use it all the time because there's so many freaking ingredients in the game. But, buying a huge, like maybe a huge augment bag or, your cookie jar,
The
sometimes it's like, do I really need it? I don't know.
small cookie jar is $295 and the large one is $495. Small one holds 50 cookies, the large one holds 250 cookies.
Now, I actually needed 250 cookies for some things, but yeah, I've actually maxed that out some years, or because I didn't use the cookies the year before. Like I have like years and years of cookies stockpiled. And the thing about the festival cookie, what makes festival the most magical of holidays is the planes shift each year. And so the effects of the cookies, not all of them typically, but a couple usually shift and give different effects each festival. So you never want to get rid of those extra cookies because the next year they might become something super cool that you're going to use.
I don't know. My thing with cookies, I always forget to use them.
I love cookies.
Ah,
I use mostly in lower level heroic levels, but I also will use them as there's death ward cookies. A lot of times I'll use that in emergency. I've used the jump featherfall cookie sometimes in emergency when I didn't realize that I sucked. That I suddenly needed some jump power for featherfall. So.
All right. Now, speaking of the store, what's on sale this week?
We have 20% off True Hearts of Wood, Lesser Hearts of Wood, Quest XP Elixirs, Healing Items, and Spell Point Potions at 20% off. Free sample of the week through the 22nd would be the Bracelet of Friends. Use the code FRNDS, FRNDS, and you get one bracelet per account.
But all right. But Sal, we were talking about Hearts of Wood and all that fun stuff, and they're on sale this week.
Yes. And I don't know, people, maybe they want to go ahead and buy a True Heart of Wood before the next update or the update patch 1 happens. Maybe.
All right.
Because as far as I know, we aren't getting anything yet. We aren't getting any magical gifts of +5 hearts or +20 hearts or just lesser hearts or whatever.
Well, we'll find out. Let's head into the site news. And we'll begin with our poll. And our poll this week was, how many past lives do you have?
I totally missed this poll.
Ooh.
I feel like I have failed as a DDO player.
Well, you'll have to give us your answer then.
I'll give my answer. Well, do you want to read the other people's answers? I have a lot of past lives.
And you would be with the majority of the people that voted. We had 84 total voters this week, and the top answer at 40%, which was way above anything else, was more than 10. At a very distant second place was none, still in my first at 15%.
Right. That was my answer.
So it's kind of like feast famine. Not a lot of middle. Yeah, I have 2 characters who have over 15. Well, one character has 30 something, and then another one has about somewhere between 15 and 20. And then I have 3 other characters that have about 5, and that's me. So yeah, I reincarnate a lot when I play.
All right. And we also have quite a number of comments from members who are watching. And for example, Fuzzy Duck 81 said, a couple of characters are still first lifers since they're semi-retired at the moment. But in general, they have at least 2, with the most reincarnated character I have currently on its 6th or 7th life now, I think. You see, some of them can't even keep track.
Yeah, if you have that many lives that you can't remember, yeah. DDO Central says DDO is a 10-year-old game. If someone has been playing since beta, having at least one character that is a completionist, triple completionist, or even a heroic, epic, or iconic completionist isn't that remarkable. That player would just have to have played consistently since the game began and would be able to accumulate that many past lives without living in mommy's basement.
Yes.
Oh, So is there a special deed for triple completionist?
No, which is why whenever anybody mentions it, I laugh at them.
Ah.
You get a goodie, or you open up a feat that you can take that gives you +2 to everything. Called the completionist feat when you have done all of the classes. But you don't get access to taking that feat 3 times or anything ever. So, or it doesn't triple because you've done.
Hey everybody, it's Drac here in post. Just wanted to say at this point in the show we had some technical difficulties with Skype, so this section of the show is going to be a little cut up. It's going to sound weird, and the sound quality is a little off for just a bit, but it does fix itself. Thanks.
The whole point of triple completionist. It just pretty means it pretty much means if you reincarnate again, you're not going to get anything out of it. No, you're not going to get any goodies because you've already gotten all the goodies you can get from reincarnating and doing heroic levels. Now you might still be able to if you aren't a triple epic completionist, then you could still maybe get things from doing epic levels over and over. And if you haven't done if you're a triple iconic completionist, you can still maybe get goodies from doing iconic past lives. But it's not an official thing. I don't think of it as an official, thing. I think if you're either a completionist or you're not.
All right, then let's head into RD to play. Good grief. More than 10. but spread over a couple of characters. My main has 4 past lives and 2 past lives. Let's see. Oh, 4 heroic past lives and 2 epic past lives. Used to be an altaholic, but didn't run much reincarnations the first few years I was playing the game.
Priciosaurus says one alt has 15, the other has 40.
40!
So
That's
like
perky.
my two main characters are like Perkysaurus, and then I have a couple, the backbench, they've gotten some fast lives, but they certainly aren't close to completionist yet.
All right. And what's useful about having 40 past lives?
You did it? I don't know.
Bragging
Yeah.
We
Well,
need to
like
have-
now,
so he can answer that question.
you have to do about that many to get like a triple completionist, and I'm doing little quotes with my fingers now. To get all of the heroic benefits you could from past lives, you'd have to do about 40 reincarnations. So it just winds up that way. Or you might be like me, and you might really like leveling up a character, and once you get to like level 28 to the cap in the end game, you're not really into raiding that much. I'm not into raiding that much, so I would rather be leveling my characters up. And usually there's benefits to leveling up still for most of my characters.
Pricky says in the chat the max bonuses from all the classes.
Yeah.
All right then. And Gorgona says, my main is on her 28th heroic past life. My 2 alts are on their 6th.
Which,
And
that's pretty legit.
pretty legit, okay?
Pretty legit. Yeah.
Not too legit to quit, but just pretty legit. Yes, I
Legit.
did just make an 80s joke, folks.
Yes. And I picked up what you were putting down.
Yes, you did. Tetsu Melik says, this might seem odd, but I don't do reincarnations. I just don't want to repeat over and over with the same character. I've got several of mine up to level 24 seems fine to me. So going through each of the classes that interest me with different characters. When I'm done, laugh out loud. Having a blast though, woo woo.
So how's going with the new character different from true reincarnating?
Well, I think it sounds like they're just trying different classes on different characters.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe they've made one character of each class, and they're leveling them up once. And eventually, when they get them all to, like, level 28, they're not going to reincarnate them again. That's what that sounds like to me.
Right, and I would say they probably don't. Maybe there's some quests that they don't necessarily like, so they don't run those quests on that character, I would say. And more than likely, if you're, like I said, I have it reincarnated, so I don't know for sure, but usually if you do that, you run everything because you want as much experience as you can get fast, correct?
Yeah, you do more things now than you used to, because they changed how farming quests work. Like now, if you do a quest more than like 2-3 times in a day, the penalty is too great for you to get a whole lot of experience out of it. So it's more beneficial to just do it once at each difficulty maybe, and then move on to the next quest, or just do it once on elites and then move on to the next quest. So a lot of people run through quests one time now and then move on. Whereas it used to be that we would just pick our favorite quests for XP and we would run them like 9 or 12 times because you could just farm them over and over again. And the decay was less for like the first half dozen times you ran the quest. But that's changed. So yeah, it's kind of like you want to touch as many quests as possible now.
We had a couple comments on this post over on the forums as well. Fran OMS Ford says, on Cannith, I have 1 5th lifer, 1 4th lifer, 5 3rd lifers, 8 2nd lifers, plus 1 1st lifer for 3 ETRs, 2 1st lifers with 1 ETRs, and on Sarlona, 3 3rd lifers, 4 2nd lifers, and plus 1 1st lifer with 1 ETR. And then on Kyber, 2 2nd lifers. So I guess that's more than 10?
But yeah, that is more broken down. I didn't think about it. I have characters on Argonesson and Kyber that have past lives. But those characters have like, I think one of them has 3 and the others have 2.
And
I don't play this game very much.
all right. And Lon Bayemnek. All
Sounds
right.
to me.
Right.
We'll go with it.
I have 3 characters. A first life bank mule, an alt that has 17 or so past lives and still isn't completionist. Okay. Repeating the same class often, it sounds like. And
Yeah.
and main characters that's got every past life 3 times and then some. I've actually lost count, but probably around 97, 98 past lives on them.
That does happen.
98?
I mean, especially like if you used up all your heroic past lives and got all the buffs you could, all the past life feats you could before they introduced things like epic reincarnation and iconic reincarnation. Well, you're still gonna eventually do an extra life in some class to get those kind of feats, maybe. Well, not epic necessarily, but for the iconic, you're going to have to, be some kind of class that makes sense with that iconic type of character. So you might get overflow. Unless you started more recently and you could like synergistic do it all and get your iconics at the same time you're getting your heroic past lives and get your epic reincarnations in somewhere. So yeah, they probably just like TRing a lot too. I'm pretty sure, trying different builds and things.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's head on to the new DDO store where we have a preview video. And did you make this video?
I did. Lamania was up.
Oh my gosh.
Over the weekend. So I popped on to check out the new store and I just did a little quick overview video showing you what it looks like, how it has the scroll feature, how you can add items to your cart. You can just put in the number of items that you want, which is awesome. I think that was much needed. And overall, just how fast the store is. So it's just a quick little, I think it's about 4 minutes. It's not a very long video, but just a quick overview of the new store and what it's going to be like when it eventually goes live.
Okay, so just tell us right out, is it faster than the existing store?
A ton
it's
faster.
fast.
Yeah, it's a ton
Okay, then
faster.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
They
like
put
it.
this way. The first sale in Lotro after they made the new store live, the first sale on there was a cosmetic sale where virtually all of the cosmetics were on sale. So you can imagine.
You have so much more cosmetics in Lotro than we do in DDO.
Right. So you can imagine then I was just able to smoothly scroll through all these, hundreds of items in there without any trouble. While if it were the old system, it would like, okay, click this, wait, okay, click this, wait, okay, click this.
Yeah, like the DDO store, like our old one or our current one right now is slow sometimes to load and display things. But when I've been on Lotro and checked out your store, it was so much slower. Oh heavens. It was possibly slow. So that sounds awesome.
All right. Okay, that's some good news. Then let's head into the Night Revels loot preview. And we didn't already have one of these?
Well, I talked about it on the site and I showed some pictures of the new Night Rebel stuff. But with the announcement that they were adding the old Maybar stuff in, I thought, well, let's take a peek and see what's there. So I just did, once again, it's just a quick overview video of all of the items that will be available when this goes live.
So, I haven't even looked at what loot. I'm assuming they're including all of the Maybar loot except for the +5 tomes.
Correct.
So you could potentially get one of my favorite augments, which is the Ruby of Endless Night.
Yep. Oh, I still want one of those.
Those are so delicious.
Oh, I want one of those.
And nutritious. Oh, I just love stabbing things with that. You level drain.
I saw that and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have to grind this for these.
It is my favorite. I mean, I like it even more than Meteoric Star Ruby or anything that has a % chance proccing. I love draining levels on things. It just makes me happy to see that little animation that you suck the life out of something in game.
Great.
It's great.
And it's bats. That's the coolest part. It's bats.
And then there's one that's vampire. It's a Ruby of Draculetta or something. It adds silver and light.
It's there as well. Yeah. Which I felt kind of dirty looking at it, but yeah, it's there.
And it has the docent and robes that are good for necromancers. I'm assuming they've included those permanent items in there.
So these two videos were basically just quick little overview videos, and it's the first time that we have done little videos like this on the site, and I'm going to try to do more when I have time. And it looks like everybody liked them because they got a lot of views, and I see we got some retweets and stuff on it, so we appreciate that. So it's just something that we just thought we should do that we haven't been doing yet on the site.
Right. I feel like such a slacker.
Yeah, what is your problem? Jeez, come on, Bob.
Gosh, you've been so busy, and I've just been like derp reading the forums.
All right, let's head into news beyond DDO, and we have a new issue of Dragon Plus. I still haven't gotten caught up with the previous issues.
You are quite the slacker then, Pineley.
Speaking of slackers.
How far are you behind?
Well, I keep on forgetting that it exists.
Okay, so we'll just move on from that. Yeah, new issue of Dragon Plus hit. I noticed it on Friday. There is a awesome article in it. They talk about the Gold Box series of video games, which we have been talking about a lot recently on the show. So
I got a code for that. I haven't actually played them all.
Really? Oh,
so I recently got a code Gold Box game, and I was wondering what to do with it. So
use them, play them. You will love them. So much. Oh, so much of my life was wasted playing those games on the Commodore 64.
All right. And we also have an opportunity to watch Van Diesel play Dungeons & Dragons as the Last Witch Hunter.
Yeah, last week on the show, we did talk about that Vin Diesel posted up on his Facebook page that he had just played some D&D with the guys from Critical Role over on Geek and Sundry channel when they were doing their Extra Life marathon a couple weekends ago. And Matt Mercer, the DM there, did say that it was recorded and would be released at sometimes. Well, that sometime is today because the video was released today. And there is two versions of it. There is a quick highlight reel, which runs about 4 minutes and 50 seconds long. That's over on the Nerdist channel. And then if you want to see the full playthrough session they had, which ran 29 minutes and 45 seconds, that is up on Geek and Sundry site. But if you just go to the article on our site, I have put both videos in there so you can just watch them straight from our site if you don't want to have to go to both sites to see them. And
29 minutes? That sounds rather short.
Well, it was just a quick. It was just quick.
It's action packed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. It is.
Okay, it's action packed.
It's very action packed. Yeah.
All right.
All I'm going to say is my favorite line from it, and it's not really spoiling anything, is it doesn't matter what year it is, a crit is a crit. I laughed so hard when Vin said that. So yeah, and it's these, just watch, but do yourself a favor and just watch the 29 full minute version of it because it is so amazing. And the Critical Role people do just an amazing job. Matt Mercer is an awesome DM. And plus the fact that you have Vin Diesel just geeking out totally playing D&D, and you can tell he's just having a blast.
All right.
And my favorite part of the video, I have to add this in just because I am such a fanboy. Jessica Chobot and Laura Bailey both in the same video. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
The only thing that could have made it better is if they had Felicia Day.
Pineleaf, my head would have exploded if Felicia Day would have been.
She was at a con or something.
Yeah, she was in Toronto, I think. I think it was Toronto.
Yeah.
Not that I, know.
Not that you follow that
or
stuff.
anything. Yeah,
Unfortunately, they haven't cloned Felicia yet, so she can't be everywhere.
That's right.
Oh well.
I'm sure that once they start cloning people, she'll be one of the first.
Okay. Now, I heard a rumor that we are introducing a new section to our show.
It's not just the show, Pineleaf, it's the site as well.
Ooh.
That's right. We, for the podcast, we're calling it On the Tabletop. And basically what this is we're going to start covering tabletop board games now as well. We talk about D&D a lot and everything role-playing. But we have kind of in the past mentioned tabletop a little bit. We've talked about some tabletop games. Basically, they've been the D&D board games that were out.
Right.
But Gen Con this year, when we did our Gen Con coverage, if you watched any of that or looked at the site, you did notice we kind of branched out a little bit more, and people seem to like that. And I'm starting to get a lot more press releases and stuff from companies, because companies are starting to see that, hey, we talk about stuff, so you send me a press release, and I'll probably talk about intent.
We'll talk about
All right.
anything gamey.
So, what is the scope of this board game section? Because
Anything board game.
anything board game.
Anything
All
board game.
right.
So we'll see. We can talk about, like this week, the first article we have is a brand new Doctor Who board game that's coming out.
Ooh.
Who doesn't want to play the Doctor fighting Daleks? That's all I need to say about it.
Well, I just hope it's better than the
Which
last Doctor Who
Doctor?
board game I saw.
It's the new Doctor, unfortunately. I mean, it's the new Doctor.
Oh, well, see, I like the new Doctor.
Yeah.
But I do kind of feel like any Doctor Who board game needs to have all the Doctors in it as player pieces or
Still not convinced about the new Doctor, but we'll see. But this one's coming from Gale Force 9, who we have talked about for their D&D minis and other D&D products that they've had out. Gale Force 9, Battlefront, and the BBC are all combining forces to unleash the Doctor Who board game. Not much is known about it yet. It's going to be called Time of the Daleks, a Web of Time game.
When is it not the time of the Daleks?
This is true. The Daleks are always...
They never go away.
They don't.
I'm like,
They're always just kind of in the background. And
they
it's-
supposedly got defeated in the Time War, but they come back, and so
Well, yeah,
All
that's
sorts of
the trouble
cults
with
of
Daleks.
they're always coming back. It's always time of Daleks.
And yes, Brachiosaurus, we will probably be talking about Arkham Horror at some point because that game is awesome.
So yes, so look for a lot of board game type geeky coverage on the site and the podcast coming soon as we get some news for something.
All right, then let's head into our week in DDO. And Drac, have you done anything this week?
I was kind of busy. My rogue still at level 19, still running Devil's Gambit, still not getting drops.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I did see that you got one of those daggers.
I did.
Was it slice or was it dice?
I got slice.
Slice.
Still no dice yet.
So you're one better than me. So I still haven't gotten either of those things.
I'm getting very frustrated at this point. But
I've gotten tons of those of the tower shield.
Yeah, I think I've got that
Every time I see one
3
now,
times
I just
now.
get.
I think. Yeah.
I'm like,
Like
every
really
time I
another
see one.
shield? Really?
Another shield.
Yay.
So, what level is Devil's Gambit Elite?
16.
Yeah,
But
I
it
was
doesn't feel
say-
like it.
Sorry, I didn't mean Elite, I meant Epic.
Oh, that's 30.
Oh, 30?
You had, it's like, I think it's like level 28 and then it's 30. No, wait, it's base level 30 and I think it's 32 when you do it on Epic Elite.
But characters like that have a limit of 28 right now.
Yes. They
Oh.
can hurt.
It hurts.
It hurts.
Okay, so
But
Drax
If
Rogue
you have
is...
a full party of people, though, they
There you
can usually manage. If there's any kind of crowd control going on, then it becomes a lot easier.
My
you know.
rogue's 19 and I'm only running it on Elite.
only Elite.
Yeah.
Heroic
Only
Elite.
elites.
Yeah.
And that's still painful. Like I said, I think both of the 2 quest arcs, past 2 updates, have been a little
Yeah,
bit.
I don't have a problem with it on hard, but Elite,
Mhm.
it's tough.
And every time I drag you into Elite, we cause scaling.
Yeah.
And the scaling is usually bad, and I start running around the dungeon as if I'm still soloing it, and
Yeah.
I cause death alerts, and I get you killed.
And it's like, Bonnie, we're at yellow, but never mind, we're at red. Never mind, I'm dead.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have gone through that door.
All right.
My Shader guy reached level 17. Devil's Gambit's all I did. Surprise, surprise, no drops. I dusted off the old Warlock because I haven't played the Warlock for a while. Reached level 9. Ran through 3 Barrel Cove. Did the Legend of Two-Toed Tobias on Elite. And that is where I had my first Warlock death. I made it to level 9
Fire
without dying on my Warlock. Fire trap.
Oh, you were just standing in the wrong place.
I was. I had forgot about that
When you-
because I have
Yeah.
done Two-Toed before, and I forgot when you turn that valve in the one part, that fire trap comes on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I couldn't. I tried to jump out and hit a heal pot real quick, but it didn't work.
Trying to think. I think that my first death on a Warlock was in Temple.
I
With-
think you
with-
said it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that totally makes sense.
And then I ran the Fire Caves, both quests, the Stone Run Red and the Breed of Flame, both on Elite. Didn't have any problems there. Then I did Ghost of a Chance, which I had never done that quest before for some reason, so that was the first time I did that. I kind of enjoyed that quest. I did not do the optional at the end, though. I just got the key to save the guy because I was like, screw.
Yeah, that's what I do.
I was like, screw
Finally.
doing that puzzle. And then I attempted, and let's key high.
How far in did you make it?
Wink the word attempted, prove your worth. I made it to the very end of that puzzle, and I'm like, I really want to say something different here, but I can't because it's a family show. Screw that. I'm not doing that, yeah.
Oh, the one with the levers and the
Yep.
floor tiles?
Yeah, the levels, the floor tiles,
Yeah.
I'm like,
I don't know how anybody's supposed to know how to do
I'm
that
like,
if
nope,
you don't have
nope,
to just
not.
memorize it already.
not doing it.
I just did a solution. I don't know how to figure that one out. Like,
Exactly. I mean, how? And then I even looked online, so I thought, okay, I'm just going to look to see how to do this so I can finish this stupid quest. And I was more confused looking at the solution than I was trying to figure it out on my own. So I'm like,
Oh
yeah,
my
I'm
God.
done with this. I'm like, nope,
yeah.
I'm done.
The first time I tried to do it and looked up the solution, I had the same problem too. And I don't know, at some point it clicked and I remembered the solution. But yeah, that puzzle is a crazy puzzle.
Yeah, it is. And then I went into House Condoric to start doing all those quests. I did the Chamber of Insanity. Still running everything on Elite. Gonna see how far I can go on my Warlock doing Elite till I have problems, even though I did have my first death. I was sad when I died, but luckily it wasn't permadeath, or see, I would have had to start over.
Oh man.
So the advantages of not playing permadeath is I get to keep going on my Warlock.
That's why I'm not permadeath.
Kind of getting attached to my Warlock, so I'm glad I wasn't playing.
Because I get myself killed all the time.
Yeah.
I do that I shouldn't.
So that was pretty much my week. And then the only other thing I did
Poor choices.
was with Pine Leaf. Well, I will let him talk about that. In game, though, my guild hit level 18, so that's kind of exciting.
All right.
Woohoo for that. And then outside of DDO, we recently had a poll not too long ago about what classic module should I run next on my attempted TPK of my party, because I am still trying to kill my party off in D&D because that's just what I do. They're my friends and they've come to expect it from me. So the Tomb of Horrors is the one that won our poll. So I thought, okay, I will run the tomb, but I'm going to be very, very evil to him, though. So I am currently working on converting another secret module, and I'm saying secret because I know a couple of them listen to the show, and I don't want them to know what module it is until they actually come and sit down at the table, and then I'm going to spring it on them. Before they go into the tomb, they're going to go into another module, and I am going to weave the two together. And all I told them was, I want you to roll up level 1s. And I said, once you guys get to the table, your characters are not going to know each other. You're going to meet each other somewhere. You're going to be thrown together, and you're going to have to learn, get along, and learn your characters, because it's going to weave its way into the Tomb of Horrors eventually. If they even survive this one, because
if they survive the first one.
Yeah, because this module is going to be difficult for them. They're going to have to learn to get along really quickly. That's all.
I take it then that this is a group that doesn't coordinate itself very well?
No, finally. If this is the group decided they would climb down a 1,000-foot mountain because they saw a light in a ledge about halfway down.
Yeah.
So that's the group of players that I have.
They're party sitterers. That's
so yeah. And in this module, if they split the party, they're going to have a hard time. So
I think that's just awesome.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
It's because they don't know at any point in time. They don't know when they're going to suddenly get busted.
That's right. And then my evil ulterior motive I have for this is they are going to get so attached to their characters, and they're going to have such a camaraderie build up as they run through this dungeon. If they make it through this one, they're going to get sent to the Tomb of Horrors because something's going to happen in this one they're going to do to where they're going to have to go to the tomb, and then they're going to die in the tomb, and it's going to be horrible for them.
Wow.
I
really admire your evil machinations here.
I know. It's awesome, isn't it? So yeah.
It's great.
So we'll see. And I told them I'm tempted to actually record some of our play sessions, but I'm not sure about that because I'll just say it's very interesting, some of the conversation that takes place at the table. That's all I'll say. So I'm not sure if I'm going to record it or not, but
Okay.
so that's what I did inside and outside of game this week. What about you, Pineley?
All right, we will head to my artificer, 16 level artificer, who questing with Drac as usual. And we started out by doing some repetition of the Devil's Gambit. So first we did Grin and Barrett at hard, where Dracula says, we'll have no trouble with this.
Rip, 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 boom! I don't understand it because my rogue has no problem on hard. And we went in there and it was just like Piney was dead almost immediately.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
difference
I
between
get
someone
I
and
got
two
one
people,
shot so
though.
many times in there.
And I like made it, I don't know, I made it a little farther than him before I died. And I'm like, dude, I don't know why we're having so much problems with this. So yeah, it was
It's the
insane.
scaling. That's why, like, every time I like dragged you into like an elite one, you know, it would become so much harder because of the scaling that happened. And I wasn't really thinking about it because I solo too much.
All right.
I wasn't playing accordingly, I guess. And the increased difficulty when you have two people compared to just soloing, or you know, when you have a full party, it's even scaled more. And it can get you.
Right.
And
So
it did.
we therefore decided to restart it at normal, and boy, that was a lot easier.
Oh, this is one thing that I meant to talk about with the balance changes. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll talk about it after talk about your.
Okay. And then after Grim and Barrett, we did Subversion. Then after completing that, we then headed into continuing on the Harbinger of Madness, where we did Sinister Storage and Fear Factory.
Ooh, how did you like those? The Harbinger of Madness quests. How did you like them?
Okay.
Apparently that well because he's not answering.
Yes. It's because all that sorcerer stuff I did after it, I try to remember.
He has permanently
Okay,
blocked
okay.
them from his mind. That's how
They've
much
already
he enjoyed
been
them.
blacked out. That's legit.
I love that question, though. This is like the second time I'm doing that question, and I love all those.
Then
It's
on my
weird.
permanent sorcerer, from levels 3 to 4, I was doing the waterworks, all that stuff in there, and somehow managed to survive all that. Then I did the Sharn Syndicate series, and in the Sharn Syndicate, on the Stormreaver Fresco, I decided, alright, if I went in without a hireling, I was going to get myself killed. So therefore, I brought in a couple of friends, did it with the hirelings, and the hirelings this time obeyed when I told them to stand their ground.
Amazing.
So I was able to complete the bonus of not killing the guards also. Then on the Bookbinder Rescue, first time I did it, I failed because couldn't break through a door fast enough because sorcerers are really weak and opening those doors is a real pain. So I failed because of that. So I said, all right, I'll go and do repossession. Now, repossession, the highlight, of course, was when I was taking the third of the artifacts. I was knocked down to single digits. I barely survived that one. But I did manage to survive it and continue on. But that's the thing I was always worried. Repossession is the scariest one of all. Especially when you're a sorcerer, because charisma is not one of the skills that helps you to get by those traps.
Yeah. So yeah, repossession. I've forgotten. That's one of those quests where MRR is helpful.
Oi! Would have been helpful.
You're observing some of those traps. Oh my!
Actually now I think I probably had some MR because MMR tends to be a feature on the Harper tree, I believe.
Yeah.
And in order to make things even for the characters, my rule is that I use the Harper tree. So therefore, yeah, I think I do have some MMRR. I have a feeling that without it, I would have been dead.
You probably would have been just obliterated.
Right.
Because that's a good quest for that, for if you want to die.
Yeah. Then I went back to the Bookbinder Rescue. I failed a second time, and this time saying, all right, why is it that when I became a 4th level sorcerer, did I not do the smart thing and take knock? because getting through the Bookbinder Rescue without Knock is just a pain when you are a wimpy sorcerer, because you either have to bash the door down or you have to unlock it somehow, and without those two abilities very well, you die. So what I did then is I had to resort to this. I had only two choices, was either to delete the character or do the Bookbinder Rescue as casual. So I decided to go in and do it in casual, and boy, the doors are a lot easier to break in casual. It's like, boom, crack!
I think one of the things, I really admire how you try to do the Bookbinder Rescue every time. Like, no matter what class you are, you try to get it done.
Yeah.
Where it's lazy people like me, I just don't bother unless I have, like, Artificer or Rogue levels.
Oh.
I just skip it.
Yeah, but it's one of the rules I have. Yeah,
but you try to do it, so I think that's so cool.
Right. That's one of my permadeath rules, is I have to do the full Shard Syndicate and the full of Shantakor.
Mm-hmm.
And right, so after Bookbinder Rescue, I did Come Out and Slay, which was a little tougher than usual, but especially because I was constantly having Otto's dance thrown on me.
Yeah.
A number of times. I don't think I've ever failed a save to that in that quest before. If I did it, it was only once or something like this. But this time, I spent half that quest dancing.
Just think,
like that.
update 30, you can dance like a gnome in that quest. So there.
Dance like a gnome. Yeah.
All right. And then at the harbor, I then went back there and finally got around to doing Refugee Toll, since I finally had a high enough skill in order to get through that. Now, next week is going to be time for me to do Shantakor, and my history in Shantakor, I remember what happened to my wizard there. As it goes, I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to get killed here, right? We'll have to see.
What level are you?
Well, I'm right now 4, but by the time I do the final bits of Shantakor, I'll be 5. So the question, so I'll be level 5 when I do the part where where it's going to be very, very dangerous.
Remember to cast like Blur and Fire Resist before you run. Do that fiery part.
You're making the assumption that I have said skills.
Oh, well, I thought you would have those spells.
What? As a
straight up we're talking about.
You could buy scrolls. And maybe that would.
Well, yeah, I never quite advise what the rules are for me buying scrolls in this.
Oh no, can you buy scrolls as permadeath? I don't know.
I was considering. I actually went to the scroll dealer to see if I could buy a knock scroll. No, they don't sell knock scrolls at the vendor, because if there's any legal way for me to do it, it would have been, of course, from the vendor.
But they do, and I don't think they sell resistance scrolls either, but they do sell Blur, pretty sure, I think. But if not, those 2 quests before you get to Halls of Shantakor have so many barrels you can break.
Yeah, you got a point there, so maybe I'll get
on the lookout. Be on the lookout for a cool potion or 2.
Yeah. So what did you do this week?
I did nothing.
What?
I was lazy. I've been saving myself for the Night Revel, because I figure when the Night Revels are out, I'm going to be doing a lot of that to try to get goodies. And so I don't want to like burnt out. So I'm basically just going to log in and do my daily dice roll. But it took the whole week just to read the thread on the balance changes.
I agree, it did.
Pages. I mean, come on. So that took pretty much the whole week. And but I was going to come back to the thing I was thinking about with the proposed changes, reading through the threads. It reminded me about the different difficulties and the differences between first life and multi-life characters. And if you aren't VIP, if you're a premium player or a free-to-play player, when you're on your first life, you can only open up quests on normal. You aren't allowed to open. You'd have to buy something from the store to allow you to open up a quest on a higher level. And then you'd have to reincarnate once. And once you do one true reincarnation as a free-to-play or a premium player, you're now allowed to open up on hard or normal. And it's not until you've done at least 2 reincarnations that you're allowed to open on elite difficulty the first time. Otherwise, you gotta complete the quest on normal to be able to open it on hard. Then you have to complete it on hard in order to open it up on elite. And I think sometimes we forget that when talking about difficulties and stuff, that on First Life characters, you haven't had as much chance to farm for gear, get like the best gear put together that might be as good defense or good offense for whatever type of character you're playing. And so that's something that over like those 3 lives is expected to happen. Like you're gradually kind of getting goodies and getting some good loot and putting it together and equipping up your character. So that's another thing where the changes, I don't think it's necessarily should affect new players as much unless they fall into the trap of expecting to do everything on Elite right out of the gate. Then they might be disappointed because everything's a little bit harder. But I do expect for people new to the game to be doing the quests on easier difficulties because they just haven't had the chance to get fully geared. They're using stuff that they've looted. So that was something I forgot to talk about with the balance discussion.
All right then.
Yeah.
Then, if you would like to help support DDO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards including a mention on DDO Players News or even be a guest host with us. And we have an email here from Phil who writes, "Hi, Pine Leaf and Draculetta. I'm new to DDO, and the first and biggest question I have is, which world server do I choose? I live in Wisconsin, USA, and I know from playing Lotro that there is a difference. Also, any newbie advice you can give would be appreciated. To give you some background, I played D&D growing up in the 80s and MERPS, Middle-earth role-playing, in college, which means that I am familiar with pen and paper versions. P.S. I will not be leaving Lotro in my first love in MMORPGs, and it's an awesome game. Sincerely, Phil."
And I did respond to Phil in an email, but I told him we would talk about this on the show as well. So I will let Pineleaf, let's hear your answers, and then I will answer.
All right, very well. I don't know the worlds all that, if any of them have different characteristics. I presume, so I don't know if there are there any German or French servers?
No.
Not purely German or French servers.
Oh,
I
okay.
think you find a lot of different, like say Australians or Europeans on all the servers.
All right. It's
To some
okay because that's a big difference in Lotro where they have they have some which are known as currently they're being called as, I guess, the former EU servers, but in about a month and a half's time, they are going to really be EU servers again because those servers are moving to Amsterdam. And
DDO Central in the chat is saying Wayfinder is what's considered the German server. That's
supposed to be.
Yeah, Wayfinder kind of has like a larger international population.
Okay.
But it's the smallest. It's the smallest populated server, so I usually only recommend people do that if they want to kind of really just try to start from scratch and get to know people who are there, because there aren't as many players on at any given time, and it's a lot harder to form a group or to run raids.
I would say especially if you're in the U.S., because if it's a large German population, it means there'll be in most of the a large percentage of the player base would be in Central European time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're in Wisconsin, that's probably not going to be too good.
But it's like there's a lot of people from different countries on all the servers. The only other server I think that has kind of like more of a dedicated population, I think is Sarlona. I think there's supposed to be more like Chinese Asian players on Sarlona, so that in the early morning hours can get up groups with that contingent. But otherwise, I don't think there's a super, super huge population of Europeans versus everybody else on any of the servers.
All right. Then I don't think I know any of the servers well enough in order to give good advice on the matter. So, Track, what's your answer then?
I told him that kind of the same thing. You said it's not as big a deal in DDO as it is in Lotro on which server you pick. I said basically if you have friends that are playing, find out which server they play on. And, pick, that would be your first choice for a server. If you have friends that are playing, you definitely want to play in the same, server as them. If not, I told him that we play on Caneth, and it's a pretty awesome server, I think.
And Caneth is one of the busier servers now because it's still the default server, I think.
And I also told him the other big two is Argonescence
Arganescent and Sarlona I would think are the three big servers in my opinion. So if you want like bigger population servers, go with one of those three, but definitely find out if you have friends that are playing and go with that first.
All right. If you want to follow us, you could email us at podcast@ddoplayers.com, and you could also follow us at Twitter, The Players Alliance @Players Ally, DDO Players @DDO Players, Draculetta @Draculetta_72, Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles, and you could follow our guest Bonnie Bew @Bonnie Bew. The Players Alliance has 4 live shows currently. 2 of them are weekly. On Mondays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have Lojo Players News. We also have 2 bi-weekly shows. Every other Thursday at 9 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have XP Quest, and every other Saturday, right after Lojo Players News, we have Tales of the Free Folk. You can join us for our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. That is all for this week, and this is Pineleaf News reminding you to quest responsibly.